Hi guys, so welcome to my new video. As you know, recently I got the opportunity to travel to the Western Europe where I am now for the first time. My first country is the Netherlands and I didn't plan this, but I came here exactly during the Pride Festival celebrations, which you can notice by the Pride flags everywhere. But as you can see, it's not even waving to the fullest, which of course represents how much decaying are the traditional values in the West. And as a Russian, I despise this old degeneracy with all my heart. So in this video, I will personally visit some Pride events to see how horrible they are. Okay, let's begin. Besides attending these horrible satanic events, I also explored the city and went on a walking tour with a guide. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but the tour ended right next to this rainbow bench. You see, even the tour guides are spreading this agenda. Right now I'm sitting on the rainbow. And also this place is very famous. It's called the Homo Monument. It is a triangle. As our guide explained to us, it represents the situation of queer people. It's not a high monument. It's just how they are blended into the city. They are not visible, but they're always there. And actually, tomorrow I want to visit an English-speaking queer stand-up. Also, I will visit a drag Olympics here. I've just visited my first Pride event. I want to share my impressions. I didn't even plan to come to that event, and I did not know that this month there are Pride events happening in Amsterdam, because I thought that it's only in June. But as I found out later, Pride month in June is only in the United States. Okay, so here I was surprised that there is such a big program, and it's not only one gay parade, it's other events such as workshops or comedy shows, educational activities. So I think that there is an argument to people who don't like naked people in the gay parade. So it's not only about just a parade, which is also a good means of representation. It's about education and just gathering together, feeling that you can be safe who you are and celebrating that. But yeah, regarding that drag Olympics, I didn't know about that, and also I don't know where it comes from, but I have this doubt every time when I'm planning my trip. That's why here, when I was reading the program for the Pride events, I was like, oh wow, there's this drag Olympics, but no, probably since I learned about this so late, probably there will be no space for me, everything is already occupied. But no, here I am, I came there and it felt so not real, like what? I am in the capital of the country that, by the way, was the first to legalize same-sex marriage, so it's symbolical even more now for me that I'm visiting the Pride event here. But another feeling I had was just anxiety, because I stood there alone on that square surrounded by other people. I have this fear that everybody is looking at me all the time, but actually I learned that to fight with this fear, you just have to switch the focus from yourself to other people. So I started to stare at people myself, and when I do this, I see that almost nobody is looking at me. So yeah, I stood there, I bought Pepsi, then they gave me this cup. Then the show started, and oh my god, it was so fun. It's funny how these drag queens, the host of the show, were mocking on each other, behaving so clumsy and making fun of themselves, of the audience. As you see, this event is called Drag Olympics. There were sports, and it was stiletto run, throwing purses into the crowd, and beach volleyball. I love this wordplay. Unfortunately, couldn't visit the volleyball because I went on to a queer comedy show that I also learned about only when I came to Amsterdam. And again, here I had this thought that no, like how probably all the tickets are not available. And yes, when I went to their website, it said that tickets are sold out. but actually you can email to some person. So I emailed them and they said that, yeah, we definitely have a place for one person. And I enjoyed it a lot because I wanted to visit English speaking stand-up, but also about queer topics. And there was such diversity in the comedians. One of them was a person with a Tourette syndrome. And also there were people from different countries, from India, from Hungary. And there was something that made me nervous for some time when in the very beginning the host asked, is anybody here in Amsterdam for the first time? And nobody clapped. I was the only one. I don't know, maybe people were shy, or maybe indeed I was the only tourist who came here for the first time and went to that event. So she was like, oh, where are you from? And I said Russia, and she said something like, great, welcome. But after that I felt that, oh, why did I even speak up? I should have just stayed silent. I don't think that they have any prejudice toward Russians, but just, I mean, I don't like attracting attention to myself, says a person who has 300,000 followers on YouTube. But it's not the end, because when there was a break, there was an elderly lady sitting next to me. She's Dutch, and when I returned from the break, she asked me, oh, you're from Russia, it's so unusual, can you tell me how did you manage to come here? I told her about Russia, the political situation there and in Georgia, the queer situation there, and she was so interested, and she asked me, did you get the pride flag here? I was like, no. And she said, oh, I will go and take it for you. They might have one. So apparently on that venue, they offered free LGBT flags. And she went out and took one for me. It was so nice. So now I have this flag. And overall, after this conversation, I felt welcomed. And even more, I made sure that I really respect a society and people who accept differences of other people. And I don't know if to use the word respect here is correct, but I mean, I feel this gratefulness to the government that protects me, basically, because living in Russia, I used that law enforcement is always something to be afraid of and to try to be detached from. Because in Russia, the government and the police is a threat to you. And here I felt so safe when I was entering the drag Olympics event, and there were security checking our bags, and I was sure that if something bad happens to me, if I go to the police, they will help me. They will not judge me, they will not overlook or laugh at me. And another thing that surprised me was that during the drag Olympics, I saw a group of deaf people. They were communicating with the gesture language, and the fact that they gathered there in that group means that, I don't know, maybe they have some city community, like not just for queer people but for hearing impaired queer people, because where I come from, it's just impossible to form any kind of organization just for queer people, not even say about some more particular groups of queer people. And you know, after seeing such an eventful program, the rainbow flags everywhere, I have a question, like, straight people, are you okay? You seem so underrepresented. But yeah, obviously it's a joke, and I got this impression only because I particularly was invested into the queer events. And actually these rainbow flags, they were put there especially for the Pride celebration, so it's not like this all over the year. So here on this poster it says that in 2026 there will be Euro Pride. I like the wordplay. 25 years of same-sex marriage celebration. It's quite a remarkable date, since this was the first ever country in the world to legalize the same-sex marriage. Pride is for the people, not corporations. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. Let's discuss this, and for that we will travel to Germany. In Berlin, I found an entire neighborhood known as the place where the first gay bar was opened. And on that street, there are even more businesses that support LGBT rights or that are owned by queer people. And probably many people will say that, yeah, but businesses are using the LGBT topic only for their own gain and they actually don't care. Probably yes, to some extent, but as for me, coming from Eastern Europe, where you cannot see any representation at all, for me, it is very precious and valuable to see. And here I want to tell one story about a business in Russia that actually tried to make something in support of the LGBT community. It was in 2021 when a Russian retailer Vkusvil posted an article on their website, a recipe of a happy family. And there they shared stories of several families, and one of them was a queer family, and it felt like a breakthrough. But several days after it, the store deleted this article and instead wrote on their website something like, "The article that we posted deeply hurt some of our customers and employees, and it was a mistake due to unprofessionalism of our employees." And it felt like a betrayal, especially for the customers of the store, because gopniks did not usually go to this progressive, eco-friendly, blah 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 store. It's the core audience of Vkusvil that was just erased, and they basically called queer people a mistake. Yeah, it was a big failure in the fight of Russian activists for equality and freedom, and that's why now I am so pleased when businesses are at least free to express their support. And again, probably Vkusvil deleted this article not even due to threats from some radical activists, but directly from the government. And it was 2021. By today's standards, it still was the time of freedom in Russia. But overall, after visiting some other European countries, I realized that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It appears that LGBT people in Europe are not as prevailing as the Russian official media tells us. I understood this better when I went to Sweden and attended some big celebration in Malmö. So I found myself amidst some big celebration, and there are many kids activities like fencing competitions and so on. Very cool. Wow! And oh my god, what do I see there? A rainbow. Spreading this woke degenerate agenda right to the children, guys. Do you see these drag queens running here around naked and molesting the children? Oh gosh, I'm so sorry for the good old traditional values that can't be found anymore in the West. Sometimes you would hear sentiments from Westerners who moved to Russia to escape the woke world. They say that only in Russia you can see traditional families. And no, actually, I've never seen so much traditional values as here. I see happy children playing, doing something with their parents, and mostly it's straight families, but some gay families, and that's okay too. And it was important for me to make this video, and I'm myself a lesbian, and I made a video about this on my channel. And of course, I knew that I would see rainbow flags and pride parades in Europe, but still I was surprised because the Russian government and official media tells you that Europe is a non-stop everyday gay parade. But in fact, what I see is that people kind of don't care in a good way. Of course, I'm not saying that it's all so perfect in Europe, and there are also homophobes and hate crimes and parents disowning their kids. Of course, I know that it's bad for some of you here. So I hope it was interesting for you to see my impressions from the gay Europe, and write your opinions in the comments and tell me how soon are you going to pack your suitcases and move to Russia, the bastion of traditional values. Thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, or you can also subscribe to my Patreon or become my YouTube sponsor. All the links are under this video. Goodbye, пока-пока.